Pranam sir. Sir, I wanted to know that I've heard that people are hearing static noise and they are connected to entities. So, is there any kind of sound frequency through which we can connect it to divine entities like gods, goddesses, or Ma Kali? And secondly, what is the way to recognize whether that entity is really a god or goddess, or is it some negative entity which is representing themselves as god or goddesses or the higher entities? Is there any way?
So, yeah, Rajesh had a question on nada or the what sounds to connect or correlate with deities, and I'm just saying that there are twofold sounds. One is the ahata or the struck sound, another is anahata, the unstruck sound. And both these sounds lead to spiritual experience. You just need to know how to cultivate the desired type of sound state. From the perspective of the struck sound, you have the mantras, and you express the mantras. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Saviturvarenyam. You hear the sound. Everybody else also hears the sound. We call that Vaikhari, the expressed. And then you have the intermediate state of the sound, we call Madhyama. And we go to Pashyanti, the sound that you only see. That is where the mantras you are counting, you are seeing. There is no difference between whether you are actually hearing this mantra or seeing the mantra. And the fourth para is where you are in the samadhi state, you become one with the mantra, one with the deity. There is no difference. The mantra will progressively channel you in this order, not by choosing one particular frequency, not by finding one fine tuning of like whatever kilohertz, but rather by finding an inner resonance going to the deeper state that you are going to transform your experience to the divine. And then the another is the unstruck sound. This anahata is tenfold, and this tenfold sound you can start hearing. Like if you were to close your eardrums, you will automatically hear some type of sound, and that is your blood vessels coursing through your body. And you think that's the only type of sound. If you try to go to more and more subtle forms of sound, you are going to hear so many different instruments. Like these yogis, I have worked on Josmanis, Gorakhpanthis, they have used this Nada yoga. And some of these yogis who do Nada yoga, they play one string, ektar. And so the idea is like, why are they playing ektar? Because they are connecting with their inner sound. And so this inner sound, like fine tuning, they are not going with the thought. They are going to amanaska, mindless state, without using any mantra or anything, simply by using the sound. The most, if they ever use the mantra, they might just use Om. And so it's like a long articulation of Om or some rhythmic kind of articulation of particular phonemes. And then they are analyzing different grades or subtle states of the sound. Again, the focus is not on what type of sound, but again to the level of subtlety of the sound. You are trying to go to the deeper and deeper and more subtle state of the mind progressively, and that will lead to the deity. So next question, Rajesh, you had was, we had these visions and occasionally deities manifest in our meditative states or dream states, and how do we know if this is a divine experience? that's a very beautiful question, because I was like, when I got my diksha and for a year and a half I didn't see or hear or had anything that I could brag about, and I was like, oh, I'm like not having anything. And then one day I had this actual Shiva, standing in front of me experience, and then I went to my Guruji, and proudly, Guruji, I had this vision of Lord Shiva. And then it's just like, how do you know what you saw is Shiva? Because mostly, the kind of gurus we have today don't ask that type of question. How do I know? Really, I mean, like, yeah, I've seen that type of posters, all of these things. How do I know this is Shiva? So meaning everybody's like, this is me, dude. I mean, like, I have some ashes, and like I'm carrying trident, and so then I asked, like, Guruji, then what is the point? How am I ever going to know which particular vision is going to be the divine experience? And then you will know. So the real experience of the divine does not need to involve the imagery. Most of us are obsessed with that. It will actually allow you to transform and lead you to samadhi state. Believe me, you want to get an appointment with Modi, you are not going to get that easily. God is not going to give you just appointment so easy either. But if you have an appointment with the king, you do not come back empty-handed. Without agenda, they don't meet you, okay? By the time you meet them, it means they are already going to give you something. So, if you have actually encountered the divine, I would like to see some symptoms, People are talking about non-stop, Guruji, I have this experience and that experience. Oh my gosh. If you smoke ganja, you are going to have more experience. So I am not trying to downgrade. I know that it is helpful when you have experiences. It is always helpful. It empowers. But I have been talking non-stop about this craziness about experience that came around the later half of the 20th century, and then it continues. It's very much Western. None of our gurus are obsessed with the experience. You might think, how many times does Shankaracharya in his work talk about his amazing experiences? Ramanuja, Madhvacharya, Abhinava Gupta. How many times our acharyas tell you, this is my experience? So don't get obsessed with these things.
Can I just continue and just ask something regarding this?
Yeah.
So in that sense, we don't need to interpret our dreams at all? Because many times we see something and then somebody will come up with a remedy that, okay, do this or do this darshan. So are we supposed to interpret it or just leave it alone?
No, depends. No, dreams are swapna, are considered suchaka, they indicate, and they are also sometimes yardstick for our spiritual progress. Having divine encounter, even in dream and in meditative states, are absolutely indicators. I am not totally discrediting that. I am only saying don't get obsessed with this thing because it is harming the sadhakas. And some people are very visual and others are auditory. And this has nothing to do with some people being close to God. It is about the ways their neurons are wired. Some people have more of their frontal right lobe, right hemisphere active, and others have left hemisphere active. And what makes them, the left ones, they are more sound oriented. The right ones more vision oriented. And it is their brain state that allows them to have more of images processed easily. So, it is not that therefore, they are already closer to God.
Right.
It is a particular way the neurons are wired. So, therefore, all I am saying is yes, even the dreams or these visions do help us guide further, but we should not make that as a measuring stick of our spiritual progress.